Hi everyone, and welcome to the Mind Massage of 27th August 2021. And wow, time is going by so fast. And as usual, I am so blessed to be joined by my wonderful co-host, Dr. Tom Applin. It's always a privilege. And we have a wonderful topic tonight, which was actually my tonight. It might be your afternoon or your morning, wherever you are in the world. But it was actually spurred on by a word this afternoon, rumption. So it's rumption versus preparation. So Tom, since it was your original word to begin with, shall we get started on that? Are you there?
I can think of no healthier way to begin. How to massage our reality. Yeah.
Yeah.
We were talking this morning about what does a classical coaching context look like, and we've all likely been through transformational personal growth and development programs where we say X and produce X, right? And we have an expert of some sort. Could be a coaching expert or a medical professional or a lawyer or somebody else who's walking us through a specialized knowledge, right? But we have a goal in mind, and it's a predetermined goal. We have something in our minds, yeah? And that's one particular kind of accomplishment. And then you're going to read us a definition of a very surprising word that's going to give us an opportunity to maybe have a goal in mind and be way open in surprising new ways, even, right? To seeing what comes from that.
Well, I know, I definitely not like that.
Yep. Well, the word is, and this you sent me in an email this morning, rumption, and it talks about the meaning is an uproar or commotion. And I love this. They were actually talking about when the word was first used. I'm just looking through this email because I remember it says perhaps it's a blend. The etymology says perhaps it's a blend of rumpus and ruction. Earliest documented uses 1802. And I think the wonderful thing about that that period is that even today in 2021, we're still experiencing rumption, and sometimes there's no better word than one that was coined in 1802.
We're always looking back to the ancient wisdom, yeah?
Yep. I don't know what the age of wisdom would be. I wonder if people look back on our year right now, 2021, and I can't think they describe our age as the age of wisdom. Or I can't think that we describe it like that. Maybe they'd have a different view looking back. But I think it's a good context to start about this word, rumption versus preparation. And often we have preparation, or we want to be prepared, because preparation shows caring in our minds. Many times it shows caring. It shows something where we've put some thought into something. We put some thought into perhaps our audience or what we're doing or how we're doing it. And it always has a great connotation to it. This is preparation. And why not turn that around and say, well, maybe the sign of health in that moment is how do we respond to the rumption? And it may be a huge physical uproar or commotion, but it may also just be a brand new idea, an interruption of what we normally think, an interruption of what we normally do. Tom, you're in a different place and you've just experienced a rumption of what you thought it might be.
It was a perfect example of instant manifestation. If we really, there are a lot of spiritual traditions that say if we really could clear our minds, you're a yoga teacher and we both walk in very well-beings circles, right? Lots of different, whatever your tradition is, people who are watching, whatever your tradition is, really, for me and for a lot of people, one of the top, one of the pinnacles of that mountain is, can we get to a place where we truly can be surprised? And if I let go of my neocortex and I experience the Rumption, maybe I should get some video of this too. If I get some Rumption in my expectations, it's likely that a miracle is on the way. Yeah. So I thought I would greet everybody from the lighthouse here on the Atlantic coast, the Outer Banks, and over there at that picnic table was a beautiful silent space in the shade 15 minutes ago. And just as we began the broadcast and you were talking about Rumption, I thought of a book that I hadn't thought of in many years. As one of my favorite books as a kid was Where the Wild Things Are. And one of the declarations in that book was, let the wild rumpus begin. Let the wild rumpus, I think it's let the wild rumpus start. And in my family, we said, let the wild rumpus begin for years and years and years. And so I thought of that book, and then all of a sudden the kids started screaming and playing with their pirate swords, and they're headed off to their pirate cruise. And it'll be quiet over there in 30 seconds. But yes, we're almost always in a different place than we think, right? Pretty much the safety mechanisms of the human condition have to do with a minute ago's reality. What was my reality just a moment ago? And we do a lot of habit change. And I work in lifestyle medicine, and we all here on this call and this broadcast, we gather a community of people who are helping people shift some things that they have been doing probably for a long time. Really, realistically, 99% of what we do today is something that we've done before. It's a known quantity. Yeah. And if we're in a space of mind, body, health, and integrity of self, there's an abundance available there that says I can surrender the current version. And the current version, as we just mentioned, is not this here, because it's almost impossible to be here. I'm speaking, right? So I'm speaking the words that showed up seconds ago, and what Hasina and I talked about this morning, right? We have an agenda. So it's almost impossible to be in the moment. It's very hard to be still. It's very refreshing to be still too. And even that, the phrase that just came out of my mouth, it's hard to be still, that's a construct and it's handcuffs, right? It's just something that I said. What if that's not true? What if it's not hard to be still?
Yeah. And I
That's a
think
good point for me to stop talking. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't say that. I think that was a very interesting idea.
Yeah.
I think that this is a good time for listeners, whether you're listening live or whether you're listening to the replay, to just feel that. But what about the constructs that we've developed and that we hold fast to? And it's also preparation, really. We prepared these constructs that we put out to the world in some way. We practiced who we are. We've said that we've defined it. We know it. So when we come out to the world, we come out with that definition. What if we threw every definition away? What is the one definition of yourself that you could let go of? Let's just take a minute. And if you want to reply to that, whether it's in the chat or just unmute yourself, what is the one definition of yourself you may want to let go of? Or maybe you just want to think.
Well, I would love to contribute. I'm really fascinated by this topic. And it's so relevant to our times. it's maybe the most relevant topic. You know, it certainly fuels all of the spiritual conversations that I'm having during the week as well. I think that the definition would be adaptable, resilient. And when Tom was talking about the now moment, I had done some writing on the now. I had gone into very deep contemplation with the now and what was happening in the now. And what I came up with was that the now is not a stagnant moment. It's never a point in time. It is, it's just a snapshot of change. And, you know, and we as new humans are so moving into this time of constant change. When you spoke about the etymology of the word from 1800, I was thinking to myself, and you know, people in those times had ample opportunities to prepare. Time was much slower. People studied texts for years and years and years. I was saying, you know, when I was in elementary school, and I opened on the first day of school of the new year, and I opened up the text, more often than not, my father's name was in the front of the text, because I went to the same schools that he went to, which meant that those texts were 30 years old. But not anymore. We live in change. We live in this moment where every moment is about just being in your senses, just adapting to whatever it is and being in the flow. So I personally have little to no time to prepare for meetings, for teaching, speakings, whatever I do, and it's become the norm. So I'll just leave it at there. It for me, it really is the norm now, and it's fun. I want to add that it can be a lot of fun, you know, taking the fear out of it and just you know, go with the flow.
Sheila, let me ask you a follow-up question. When is it the most fun? When is it fun the most?
I mean, my first inclination is to say always, in the now, in the wherever I am, like right now. You know, I don't know what we were going to talk about, but I love accessing whatever is there, you know, in every moment. Because for me, preparation, I found it didn't used to be this way, but in the last few years especially, preparation slows me down and I find it limiting because it's preconceived and then you're not in the moment anymore. So I enjoy being in the flow. I love it. And I feel like it really is the way of the future for us as new humans. Because in internet, we're in real time, in the moment, all the time. You know, you used to prepare for meetings. I used to, when I worked in Washington, D.C., I would take subways and transports to, you know, all kinds of different government agencies and things and have time to think about what I was doing. No more. We get on, you know, like we are now with people all over the globe. Everybody's got different ideas and it's all converging and it's just fun.
So somebody from the outside has to shake up your snow globe a little bit.
Well, it just always is shaking. You know, I wouldn't have it any other way, honestly.
What came to mind while you were talking was that sense of surprise and contribution is also possibly eroded a little bit in the modern times. One of the things that I love that you identified that people had more time hadn't even crossed my mind, but that was true. People had a lot more time to consider things, and it also occurred to me that people also were almost always surrounded by other people, right? We had our tribe around us. Today we have to be, we very consciously have to sculpt our tribe and carve out time to be with people that we care about, right? And maybe even identify times in the calendar that are what we call me times, sacred self times, those kinds of things. And so I'm wondering if that, if the fun part has to do with sharing with people. Does it have to do with when your light bulb goes on and you have one of those new revelations? Being alone sometimes, we can't wait to get out and tell somebody that we love, right? We can't wait to get that idea out to the public in some way.
Mm.
Does that feel right?
You know, it does. And I think it's also, a lot of my work is about channeling the evolutionary impulse itself, which is the impulse of life, the impulse of evolution that is always gathering and always moving forward, always calibrating. And so kind of just diving in and seeing what's there is always, there's always surprises. And I love I love discovery. And I'm always more about pulling from the future, if there is a future, rather than the past, if there is a past. And there's just much more to discover because it's not preconceived.
I love that. Yeah, a lot of the successes that we gather, and we might not even consider them successes, but here we are today, right? We made it. Whatever we did yesterday, evolutionary wise, we made it, right? And then all the maps and the medals, as Billy Joel would say, maps and medals laid out on the floor. We gather our titles and our degrees and our awards and our job description, and we put our CV together. And you're right, it's all from the past. And when we're in a space where we're actually coming from personal purpose, from what Athena and Shamima in the summit tomorrow are calling personal blueprint, or maybe I'm stepping on that. Personal blueprint, sweetie? Is it?
It was actually identity blueprint.
Identity blueprint, thank you.
Like same concept.
Yeah, so talk about that for a second. And maybe you could say that better than I can. But the flavor is, Sheila is pointing to the idea of having our eyes forward in a heart-centered way, in a personal, sacred self kind of a way, rather than looking backwards at what we had done yesterday, even though it worked. Even though yesterday worked, great. Maybe it didn't, but even for people who are successfully walking in a place where they're thinking, this is good. I've got some momentum. There's a space for a shakeup there too, right? A quantum leap if we actually foot ourselves in self and look forward, or maybe not even look forward, but foot ourselves in self and be ready for forward.
Yeah, I found it very interesting, Tom, because 15 minutes before my massage, you sent me this picture of these birds, and what birds did you say again? I forget.
Pelicans.
Pelicans, and they were flying in this formation. I mean, it was a straight line, really. And what was interesting about that is, as I was doing the write-up for my massage, and I said, is that preparation or Rumption? And just as Sheila, you were talking about how we can't prepare anymore, we're in the moment, whether we like that or not. And it's a great thing to be able to like that and just to, like you say, access what's there. But I wonder, I was in the meeting a bit earlier, and the term deep time was used, and there was a reference to our relationship with other aspects of the world, other aspects of ecology, other species, and so on. And I just wonder, those pelicans, do they also feel the rumption of what's happening today and having to have their preparation on the back burner, and how do we respond now? when do we decide to fly? What are we responding to? Or is there no response from the past that we can access? Is it just in the now? What can we do to just be in the now? And it's very interesting bringing in the personal, the identity blueprint. And that's going to be something we do in our Bubbles Beyond Borders Empowerment Summit tomorrow. But bringing that in, it's so easy to know oneself in a moment of preparation, where you can say, I've accessed myself, I've defined myself, I've asked what I would do in the situation, versus being in a moment that is unquantified and having no access except tuning into yourself and saying, who am I now? What is my response in this moment? And that's very interesting. Maybe all of us, or all species in the world need to, are having to do that. That's a very interesting concept for us.
Well, I will make a little comment about that as you speak about the pelicans. I noticed, and I've got my, I'm backed up against the woods here. When the pandemic started a year and a half ago or thereabouts, I noticed the birds singing much louder. To me, it felt very joyous. There were more songs, and they seemed to be blending together, and it was very noticeable that they were responding to the environment in whatever. Now there was a lot of traffic, so I live in a city where there is traffic. The traffic had slowed down. People weren't, it was only kind of delivery trucks and delivery cars now. Most people were working at home. And so it seemed to correlate with what was happening outdoors. We have salamanders, and the salamanders were just running around all over the place. There was a dove that nested right above my front. People are coming in and out. Of course, we weren't going in and out as much, but that's just what comes to mind for me when you ask about what are the pelicans experiencing. Is I really noticed a lot happening in our world. It was a slowing down. Because of the environment. For us at home in the pandemic, for people who had kids, it was speeding up, because now they were having to be working online and having their kids at home as well. And for others, it slowed down. But I do feel that that nature was responding to that.
And maybe that inner nature is responding too. It's hard to jump in an open-ended question, right? We talk a lot about answering a yes or no question. We almost always have an answer to a direct question that's got to do with knowledge or physical content. When we ask an open-ended question, who, what, when, where, why, there's a bit of a pause that's possible. Not everybody stops there, but when you ask, when you just said, Sheila, what are the pelicans thinking? We can't help but stop, right? I'm not a pelican, so I don't have a pat answer, and it's an open-ended question. And so because I'm an ego structure, because I have a neocortex, I have no option probably, unless we really can get to a mindfulness center, a meditative space of nothing. My brain's going to do something, or I'm going to be thunk, as Hasina and I say. Yeah, we can't help but be breathed, and we can't help but be fun, and something's going to show up. But maybe it's that space itself, it's that little pause that is the permission for the inner self to come out. Yeah.
Yes. And I know. Wow, the time has just flown by. Pardon the pun. Now that you're talking about the pelican flying, but I actually want to tomorrow at the Bubbles Beyond Borders Summit, we're going to be accessing that wisdom from ourselves because um, and Sheila, you were making this point, you know, during the pandemic, like we're in a space of change. You can't say you're prepared anymore. And in the space of change, who are we? Who are we in business? Who are we in health? Who are we in our personal lives? And that's something that we're discussing tomorrow. So in case any of our listeners would like to join in, I just want to quickly share my screen and take a minute and just, okay, there we go. I hope this is, okay, yes. So this is an empowerment summit, and it originally started with my sister Shamima and I as a campaign every year to raise awareness to support the rights and dreams of girls and women around the world. And it evolved to a campaign for gender equality. And then came this time where, okay, so we're prepared. I'm using the word prepared again. We're prepared, we're raising awareness, people know about it. So what action is are we going to take? How is this making our world better? And then we started these empowerment summits, where we can actually, if we get better in our own lives, if we can respond to who we are and get that out to the world, then we can step into this brave new world and stand out. So it's tomorrow at 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 to 7 p.m. South African time. And we just have a lineup of amazing speakers. One of them is Tom, I'm pleased to say. And it's about crafting your identity blueprint so you can show up as your best you. And we just said knowing yourself allows you the freedom to own your voice and to rise to your greatest level of self-worth. When you claim your voice, you're unstoppable, you're unbreakable. And that's what we're looking at. Just giving that to the world, giving ourselves to the world. And it's really about that. What can we get? Where, do we show up as us in the world? And of course, we've got a wonderful, wonderful lineup of speakers. And I will stop the share. And if you want to sign up, it's bubblesbeyondborders.org, where you can sign up and just get you'll be sent an email with a Zoom link to attend. So that's just if you want to join us. Going back to preparation and Rumption, what rumptious moments have you found in your own life? And how are you choosing to deal with them? And I'll give the floor to Tom now for some words of wisdom.
Well, I just had a bit of personal space show up too, because when you said finding your deepest self, you know, I'm footed in psychotherapeutic dynamics, and I think many of us were raised in that space where we really do have to figure out why we are who we are, and what if we didn't have to figure it out. And looking over the questions that are the pointer questions for that identity blueprint, there's a lot of space. And since we've been distinguishing future self from past self, and inside an abundance mentality, if we really could let go of past self, we were talking yesterday in the broadcast about the question, would you rather be rich or know how to get rich? Would you rather be healthy or know how to get healthy? Would you rather be happy or know how to get happy? And in the world of balance and Mother Nature is not ever balanced. Mother Nature is always achieving balance. Yeah. So in that with that idea of abundance, presencing that again, if we really could let go of all of the constructs that we have, and they're very workable. You know, when we have emergencies, we have to dive in, figure out what happened. If you have a car that's broken down, you have to figure out, take it to a mechanic, have to figure it out, right? If you got something going on in the house, bring in the electrician, find out where the problem is. But we've taken all of those workable dynamics in a mechanical intervention way to this thing called physiology, because we characterize the body as a human machine. And what if it's not a human machine? What if it's just a machine-ish thing living a spiritual reality, right? It's a spiritual thing living a machine-ish reality. And if we didn't have to figure it out, then we might have access to that abundance, knowing that we do know how to be surprised. I might not have said that last part very well, but do you get where I'm pointing to? You always say things better than I do. So what's your reflection on that?
Well, I think that here's to being surprised and to really just being in that moment. And how do we figure this out? How do we come to this moment? And Tommy, you say this very well about meeting life on life's terms. How are we going to do that in every moment? I haven't really answered that question, but really that's what comes to mind. And I do think you did it well. And on that note, we should probably end the broadcast. And Sheila, we haven't had you in the space before. It's so wonderful to have your contributions. It's always wonderful to have everyone's contributions, energy, and word contributions. So it was beautiful. And good.
Everybody have a great day, not having to figure things out.
And good morning, good afternoon, or good night, wherever you are in the world. I will now stop the recording.